Next show. That's it. All right.
But this is such a good decision to split this into two shows, right? Because it really is two entirely separate topics.
Yep. And as mentioned, so we're doing this because there's different audiences. Some of them like to know about AI, which is awesome. But then there's some that just want to know about the market, right? So we're starting this show, and we are live, by the way. So you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to do some technical analysis. We're going to go over some trades and talk about the market, kind of like a recap, because there's a lot happening, right? Especially this week. And we're actually seeing some green, which I like.
Yeah. Well, let's bring up some charts here.
So I'm just taking the link, I'm putting it into, so we have the Beyond FOMO Telegram group. So if you're in Telegram, search for Beyond FOMO. And then we also just shared it in the Flourishing AI group as well. So it's there. Mm-hmm. But then, as you know, always hit that subscribe button because you'll be alerted whenever we go live in general. So always don't forget to do that.
Press the button if you like trading and like making money trading. So
here we go.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Come on.
Let me share my screen. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I keep seeing this a lot, actually. So what's up with this?
Bitcoin, yeah. All right. So master of all cryptos. Well, just to recap, we had this FOMC rate hike thing, which then caused this predictable drop in basically every market across the board, right? Then I don't know if you guys were watching this SEC meeting with Powell, but he remained to be hawkish in the future, right? In the near-term future. Luckily, they didn't raise rates this time, which is good, but the expectation still is pricing in that they will raise rates quite a bit throughout the rest of the year.
Well, I said they're going to come back in March, right? I think, or have like another opinion.
And so this is when, we'll have the CPI data released in early February 10th, the next one. So we're going to start to see if this is trending upwards still or starting to level off or what, right? And that's going to be very important to govern what the FOMC does for the rest of the year, right? So they're going to become more aggressive if they see the inflation numbers are still rising over time, right? We still have the SEC review of the Grayscale ETF coming up, right? So
I just heard one of those other ETFs got denied yesterday. Something happened.
Oh, they did. Yeah. But it didn't really cause any sort of rejection. And this is still in Fate's pattern. I think we talked last week because we're asking, well, what is Fate seeing? Fate is seeing this descending, broadening wedge here, which in technical trading is usually a bullish thing. Because usually what happens is you'll see it kind of oscillate inside of this wedge, and then it'll go sideways and then pop up from the other side of it. Mm-hmm. So it's still in this. And as we were talking about last several weeks, this green log trend line is, people that are calling for Bitcoin to break under that, you really have to convince me that that's going to ever happen. That's
very, very rare, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very rare. That only happened 4 times in 10 years or so, and not by much, right? It's it was very little underneath.
Yeah, you'll see here. I mean, we can scroll back. It dipped a little bit here in September of 2020, right? This is basically the recovery from the COVID crash.
Yep.
At this point in time, I remember everybody was marking the price up because they were excited about the halving. You remember this in 2020?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, the halving, Bitcoin always goes on this crazy bull run after the halving, right? Because it did last time, 4 years. In 2016 was the last halving. And instead, we had this black swan event, which caused a dump under this, right? But it wasn't sustained, right? It wasn't sustained. It just came right back up above it, right? But before that, you'll see it's basically, it was here a little bit. In 2018, in that ultimate bear market that we had, it touched under here just a tiny bit. That was it.
majority of the time it's always above it. I mean, that's
Just for context, like how often this happens, right?
Yeah, and it's taken, like you say, it's taken a black swan event to really dip below it for any real significant level.
Yep. So, I mean, this is an excellent area to buy. I'm personally buying a ton of Bitcoin around here. I won't even be. I won't even hide it, honestly.
So with that note, let's actually, I forgot to put the disclaimer on. So
We'll put the disclaimer now, so that might be good.
Yeah, that's perfect timing.
So
Quick.
we'll be back real quick. Let me hit that. How do you like those transitions?
It's got to happen.
All planned.
Right?
Oh, that's right. It's all part of the plan right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I could cut that and put it towards the front. We'll see.
So let's take a look, because this has been mostly driven a lot by equities. So let's take a look at equities lately.
So there's also a lot of other stuff happening behind the scenes. We have El Salvador. They keep purchasing Bitcoin here. They keep buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have reports of Biden supposedly coming out with like an executive order soon as to like the dangers of digital cryptocurrencies. But then the Fed themselves talking about perhaps introduction of a stable coin. So there's so many different like back and forth things happening, I guess, in the back end.
Yeah. I still think, they're telegraphing their move. They're basically rejecting ETFs because they think Tether is a scam, and then they're going to come up with their own version of Tether that uses the same tactics that Tether does, but it's just controlled by the government.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if the government actually came out with their own stable coin, would the other ones actually, do you think that they would exist? As weird as that sounds, like, should they exist?
If there was a government-backed stablecoin, people would across the board use that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So do you think that could actually like I hate to use the word, but like kill off like USDT Tether?
Yeah, easily could do that. Mm-hmm.
So,
but that's not to say that crypto would crash, right? True. It's just that it would be usurped because Tether was like the first real stable coin that came out, but now there's a whole bunch. And a lot of them are like fully backed with reserves and things like that, FDIC insured. Like, the ante keeps getting higher and higher and higher for stable coins, right?
Yep.
And who knows? Maybe the government will ultimately just buy one of the existing stable coins and just call it theirs. I'm sure some of those privately held institutions that run these things would love that to happen. They'll just cash out,
So it's funny that you mentioned that. I know you have your screen up, but I do want to pull this up.
Yeah.
So it's just on CoinGecko and stablecoins, right? So a lot of people, whenever they go to CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, they're typically looking for just like the altcoins or the high caps, but they do have different categories. So go check out the different categories. So I just go here, categories, and it's cool how they have this. And they actually then have additional information upon each category. So if we go to like the metaverse or NFT type projects, it's there. But on stable coins, I mean, look at all the options that we have here. That's a lot. That's a lot of stable coins.
Mm-hmm. I think the key thing to solve with stable coins is how do you compensate for inflation? And this has been a problem that's plagued all fiat assets throughout the entire world.
Yeah.
Is that your purchasing power goes down over time just due to governments accumulating debt and the way that they run.
That's crazy how many that there are. And sometimes some of these do actually get like, I guess this is stable to gold, Tether Gold. I never even heard about this one. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you do see this, which is funny. So you'll see one that's supposed to be $1 and it's jumped to $1.11, $1.13. So it's supposed to be $1.
Yeah, and this is one of the strategies that Fate employs too. Fate looks at all the stable coins and figures out, their relationship should all be $1 to each other, should all be 1-to-1, and Fate will actually automatically arbitrage them when it's
Really?
when it's at. It's one of the cool strategies that she'll do when she has nothing else to do. And I've seen her doing that quite a bit in my account even lately, and across the board with a number of other customers, because I'm personally in tether anchor mode with Fate, like since this bear run started. And most of the things, Fate's just been waiting it out. Like, I don't want to buy this. I don't want to buy that. What can I do? Right. So she'll just arbitrage stable coins.
For those that are
50
tuning
cents
in,
here, $1 there, not $1, but we'll see. She'll do these like little trades, like tons of little trades arbitraging this stuff.
so for those that are tuning in that aren't aware of Flourishing Capital, Fate, as we call her, is the very first full AI trading portfolio manager, and she looks for these types of trends. So and it's all by herself. This isn't a bot, right? So it's not a bot which you're controlling or telling her what to do. She's actually making up her own mind, her own decisions on the best trade possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, based on market conditions. She's constantly watching. She looks at like more than 6,800 markets continuously. So she's absolutely able to see what you, the individual trader, can't. And she sees as contracts are being written, literally, right? So she can see which direction the market's going to go and can move much faster than an individual trader can to account for those market moves.
Yeah. One thing people don't realize, most people even that are deep into crypto don't realize, is that when you submit an order to buy something on a blockchain, that order goes into something called a memory pool, which it sits there for a bit while it's trying to figure out like who should mine this, what should I do with this, and this type of stuff. And people don't normally have visibility into this memory pool before it gets posted to the actual blockchain, because it goes in a pool, and then it gets mined, then it gets confirmed, and then it actually becomes a reality, right? But there's all these steps that happen before that. So Fate's able to kind of see things come in from point zero, like all the way from the ground floor, before they even get posted to the blockchain.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but on that note, and I actually want to make a video on this for those that are getting into the space, even for those that are in the space. Unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of people that aren't familiar with like Block Explorer, right? So just BSC scan, Ether scan.
Yeah.
Even Bitcoin has its own, right? All tokens their own blockchain will have their own Block Explorer. But there's a lot of people out there that aren't aware of this and how to properly look into it. So when you're talking about the mempool and all that, you could actually see like the nonce account. So for like on Ethereum, it's like you're on like a waiting list. So they can actually, I guess that's one of the factors that she takes into account, right? To see like where everybody kind of is.
Yeah, absolutely. She can see it, and she can see where money's moving, right? You've all seen in Telegram when she sends out an alert that large chunks of change are moving from one wallet address to another, right? That's her spotting market movement, and she's letting you know, hey, people are moving money into this fund, this direction, this token, this kind of move, right?
Yeah,
and that helps you identify opportunity.
Could we? So I know that. So we're just talking about AI here, but can we see this stuff like with our own like eyes and brain to calculate this kind of stuff? Like as a trader, like can we actually just go to like one of the block explorers to get ahead of everybody else, or is it that like instant? Does that make sense?
You can do it to an extent, and there's some of these analysis sites out there, like
I'm trying to put some like tools and suggestions out there for those that are into the trading aspect, because when we are talking about trading, again, just bots, right? Trading bots, and then AI, those are way faster than what we can mentally take action on.
Yeah, think about, to the answer to your question is, as Will said, is pretty simple, right? Yes, an individual could go and look, but in the time that it takes you to go and look and pull it up and for it to load on your screen and for you to make a decision about what to do with it, right? Those are, lots and lots of seconds, let alone milliseconds, and the bots are operating on milliseconds.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, even just if you take a look at even just the wallets that are important, like wallets that represent whales, insiders, like things like that. That is like thousands of wallets you have to look at all the time and say, well, for example, it was just circulated around the internet, I think a few days ago, that somebody found out that the Ethereum Foundation sold millions of dollars worth of Ethereum literally at the top in November, literally at the top. And it took until now for somebody to figure out that happened. Right.
Oh, well, the same thing happened with Litecoin Foundation with Charlie Lee. And that was in 2017. You remember when that huge dip happened? I think he actually openly said that. He's like, yeah, I sold at the top.
Yeah.
All that LTC at that price, done.
Yep.
Yeah. I think he sold it a little before the top, or it was like, if I recall, it was like October.
He sold it like right before the peak. He was out.
Yeah, it's like right before. I remember that. Yeah.
Smart move on that account. And everybody was just so pissed. He's like, how could he do this to us, this and that?
I remember, and it was in 2017, a lot of people were circulating rumors about, because we all knew that CME was launching futures. Like, they told us in advance.
Sure.
And people are like, oh, look what happened to like Palladium when they did that. Look what happened to like these other like weird random futures markets, and you could see every single one of them crashed severely after CME launched futures on that commodity. And they were saying it too. I remember this president of the CME was quoted as saying something like, we're going to like take control of crypto, or we're going to like bring it back to ground, or I forget exactly what he said, but it all came true. It all came true.
Well, I'm just going to go back to this Biden thing. So this executive order, has something like that been done? I don't think there's ever been an executive order from other presidents in regards to just digital currencies. I mean, we hear like Russia, we hear them talk about regulatory things, but like an executive order, that's kind of a big step, right? I mean, that's something has to be declared, and then something is going to be done about it, right? It wouldn't make sense to make an executive order and then say, we might do this, we might do that. It has to be kind of confirmed, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, it seems to me
what kind of power do you think he has, though? I mean,
not really anything, honestly. It's already been, they tried to regulate it to death, right? Already, right? And making it very difficult for Americans to participate in various crypto-related activities. But as we've seen it play out, people just use VPNs and they get around it. So it's really, I don't know. I mean, countries seem to take sides. China has taken a side against crypto, right? India has taken a side against crypto, right?
Back and forth with India, yeah.
Huh? Yeah,
India
but you see that the
yeah.
number one country with holders of crypto is actually India too, right?
Yep.
So, U.S., like, I think is number 2 with the total number of holders of crypto or something like that, if I recall.
Yeah, I think India is more for, I think, like individuals, though, as opposed to us, where it's like larger, I guess, accredited investors. So the spread or the holder is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Think about that, though. If you're in India, just my opinion, right? So if you're outsourcing work, or if you're just there, maybe they're at that point because they're accepting that as a different form of payment, right? When it first started out. So it was a wise decision, though, for them to do that. Those are some crazy gains on that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like the executive order that's coming out is really just a statement about the fact that they're going to start paying attention to it closely, right? Yeah. I mean, that's really all it is. It's not them saying we have any particular positions necessarily. It's really looking at the opportunities, and it's ordering the governmental apparatus in the U.S. to begin looking at crypto seriously and defining a point of view that they're going to have about it, right? That's really what it comes down to. And this is how government works, right? It is, you are turning a massive ship and you can't move that quickly. And there's certain steps that could be taken at the executive order level to block or deny certain things, or that kind of effort. But in this regard, I mean, if anything, it's a good sign that the government isn't going out and saying you can't do this, right? Like China banning crypto, that's pretty draconian,
That was
right?
intense. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course they're banning it so that they can launch their own tokens, right? It's pretty transparent. So now you look at that. Okay, the U.S. government has been making noise about it. The SEC's been making noise about it. They know that they need to get some sort of controls in place because it really is the Wild West. And so now they're just going to form an opinion, which is great. It moves the ball in the right direction because, let's be honest, there's a lot of stuff happening in crypto that should not be allowed, right? That just should not be able to happen. Shills, scam tokens, all of that kind of stuff.
That's the SEC. They're you could see right now they're jumping into that like deep. Like if you're doing something that's like gets regular, if you have the balls to go out there and do some shady stuff, and if you're not with an attorney or anything, they're coming after you. That's it.
Yeah,
it might not happen now. This stuff it'll come back to you 3-5 years from now. Just get that knock on your door.
Yeah,
you're there.
Yeah,
and hence the disclaimer we just put up, education purposes.
Yeah, that's right.
But on this note about just these executive orders and things, my opinion, I think what they can do is perhaps, and I hate to use the word like enforce, but I do think this might be going towards like the environment, being like environmentally friendly when it comes down to the mining aspects. Because that they can control that with the regulatory systems, right?
Yeah,
like they can measure electricity, the amount spent, all that kind of stuff. So maybe you need permits. I'm sure some cities already have that in place, but they might change some of that.
Yeah, and it's all part and parcel, right? It literally begins to lay the map or the foundation for them to have opinions and issue rules and rulings about all of those different pieces, right? Like somebody does a rug pull right now, your ability to go after them is virtually non-existent, right? It is very difficult because you get into jurisdictional things. Are they out of the U.S.? If they're not out of the U.S., the U.S. government's like, it was your problem, right? So this begins to set that foundation where, they can say, hey, we need to be aware of, environmental impact from mining. We can set, a framework around a U.S. government issued, stablecoin. Those pieces become, sort of possible with the executive order that's happening. So in my mind, it's, as much as you worry about over-regulation, which is absolutely valid, right? But, some regulation is a good thing. Too much regulation is a bad thing. So
I think they're going to Facebook, the metaverse thing, right? So Meta.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they've kind of stepped away from Libra token. Remember that 2017 or 18? So Libra token, I believe, what was it like was it a $10 million buy-in for that to become part of like that ecosystem that they were building?
Something crazy,
yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous.
I think it was 10 million, something like that. So that dropped, but now it looks like they're actually back to doing something new.
Yeah.
So that and it's just with Meta as well, but it looked like they're continuing this whole thing. They didn't stop.
Yeah, they didn't stop, and all they did was pull it back, and they're going to change the name, and they're going to change some of the functionality of it, and how it all plugs together. And guess what? NFTs are going to play into it, but it's coming back.
So that's going to be interesting. The NFT component, because right now NFTs, people are just selling them, and then of course there's the taxation of that, right? So like the 35 or whatever tax bracket you fall into, but perhaps that can be further regulated. That could be, because there are people out there that so real estate, we're talking about like fractionalizing properties or other assets, and if you go talk to any attorney, they will 99% of them do not have an answer for this right now, because there is no clear compliance or regulations for that.
I guess it might fall under something like a collectible, right? Like how those are kind of treated. I don't know, like if you're selling I don't know, your Sega Saturn games that you know what I mean? Something like that, that's a collectible now.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
for those though, you're still getting hit with NFTs. You are still getting hit with any capital gains tax on the gain or the difference of appreciation from after receiving those funds. But a lot of actually all NFTs, from my understanding, also are considered securities. A lot of people just don't think about that.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's the whole reason why they're going to start talking about this now. It got to the point where they have no choice but to kind of step in and say, this is where we're going now, I guess.
So I want to bring it back to the mining stuff, right? Because typically profitability of mining is related to the price floor. When it's not profitable to mine Bitcoin anymore, then typically the price gets pushed up just for that reason alone. Just because miners will walk away if it's not profitable to mine it, right? And then the whole network would collapse. Right?
Do you have a chart that you
So I
want to
have
show
a
or
chart
not?
up if you want to see my screen.
Yeah. And I think miners right now, they're actually keeping their Bitcoin, right? As opposed to selling it for like a profit. They're actually holding it now.
Yeah, you'll see that it's a lot of Bitcoin is moving the cold wallets and things like that. And that's a really bullish sign usually. When Bitcoin and other crypto moves to exchanges, that's a bearish sign. When it moves off exchanges, it's bullish. So you see this, the mining profitability is becoming pretty low right now. Like this is kind of the floor in 2020, right? And we saw that it had to come up, otherwise miners would be completely underwater, right? So this is another sign to me that shows that Bitcoin is pretty bullish right now. Let's see if I can.
Cannonball, this could honestly be the best time to start the marketing efforts of AI token right now.
I know, right?
So the snowball effect, getting it going, then all this stuff is basically lift off and ready.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. See, it was all planned out. We actually timed the market perfectly. We just, couldn't brag about it because we couldn't tell everything about what was happening with Uplink.
So back to the wider markets here. We see this kind of consolidation happening in equities, right? It's going to take a lot of fear to bring this under this. But if the S&P does kind of come under this level, under like 420 type of level, it's going to be a lot of panic and it's going to be one singular big drop downward, right? So just, manage your capital with a little bit, hedge your bets, can you hedge with options, things like that.
Well, yesterday or today, we're also seeing tech stocks actually start surging now too, right? So they're kind of coming back.
Yeah, but like we were talking about last week, the wider picture is still pretty bearish for equities, right? We have high inflation, we have rate hikes, we have still a pandemic. There's this war. There's a lot of things that are not really that good. So we can easily, I drew this line a long time ago as a blue line where I expected this year to basically be flat. Mm-hmm. You remember this one?
Yep.
And I still think that's probably what's going to happen. So what can easily play out here in this scenario? How do you set the color? I'm going to set the color on this thing.
We should have the next show. We should actually just have one on Trading View, just so people could see the different tools that are available to them.
Like a tutorial on Trading View.
Yeah.
Actually, that's actually not a bad idea. Even DEX tools, because I believe so. Trading View is implemented into DEX tools, but for just able to just draw a line to show curves and stuff. A lot of people don't even know that these tools are available.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we've been in the space for a while. There's others that don't know anything about these lines. They're listening to your advice. They're looking at it and saying, this looks good. I trust this guy.
Yeah. Suckers. No.
I don't know what to say on that.
Couldn't resist. Sorry.
I think that next week we can easily see this kind of mini rally. It kind of goes like this, but then it hits kind of underneath here and just gets rejected because people realize like, oh, things aren't that rosy. Why should it go up and continue going up, right? And then that little mini rally, I still think is just going to come back down like this. That's how I think the next few weeks are going to play out. Question is really, is this going to really drive crypto or not at this point, right? Because in an environment where a lot of the fears around inflation, people look at crypto and are like, well, that's not inflationary. Like, why should it affect this? Right?
Sure.
Actually, you could make the opposite argument. It's actually deflationary. So this may be kind of what's going on in the news the next couple of weeks is stuff around this, which then, plays into this whole picture around this being the true support line of Bitcoin, right? Because then that breaks this out like this, right? And then it continues on, and then this pours fuel on the fire because everybody gets excited. Oh, the bottom was found now, and then everybody's going to buy it, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have money on the sidelines right now, waiting to see, is this really the bottom or not?
Sure.
And I'm aware that like the past few weeks I like draw lines up like this, like this, like this. Yeah. But this is
you're definitely not a fudder, that's for sure.
we're getting into this territory where this is just a deep discount. This is just a deep discount. And maybe you wait a little bit longer, maybe you won't have to wait at all. But at some point you get into this area, it's gonna go up for sure. Like in the near term.
So do you think that's also irrelevant to this ETF approval for Grayscale, or that still kind of plays a role?
I think it still does play a role. Like this, I mean, if this is approved at this point in time, it's going to be a huge surprise factor, and we'll just push it up. Like there'll be so much excitement buying this, right?
Yeah.
If it's rejected, it's going to be like, oh, well, all the other ones were rejected, so it's not surprising. So it'll be more the same.
It'll be another delay, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of them repositioning and coming back and reapplying.
Yep. But the bear, I mean, let's put my bear hat on, because I think it's not fair to say everything's all rosy, right? I mean, the bear situation is that this follows equities and kind of has, maybe we have this little mini rally here like we have in equities.
Yep. Or
maybe next week we get a whole bunch of FUD news about this war or whatever, and then it drives it down further into discount territory. In the most bearish situation, right, is we have a bunch of FUD news come out and then we break sharply under this, right?
That's like another black swan type event.
Mm-hmm. And then you got to look for where
exactly.
Where is the supporting price action at? Where did I put it? VPVR. So at this point, like, we'd have a sharp price action down from a bunch of media FUD. And then we're looking at, well, there wasn't a lot of supporting price action in kind of these bars here, right? People are looking at how this was just all hype driving this straight up. Uh-huh. So they would come back to fill in this volume here, right? Which would probably take it into the 20s, honestly, in the most bearish situation. And the interesting thing about that is if you look at the price for a GBTC, do I have that on here?
I just actually had that up before. Yeah.
So if you look at the price for GBTC now, it's trading at a 34% discount.
Yeah, it's at $25 now.
So if you basically reverse that math out, GBTC is pricing in a Bitcoin of 20,000 right now. Somewhere around that, 20, 22,000, something like that, right? So, like I've said before, either GBTC has to come up or this has to come down. But you can't have a 34% discount to your NAV perpetually, because then you will, like the people that run Grayscale, they'll just close up shop.
Yep.
Right? They're basically handing out free money.
Yeah.
Right?
For those that are also interested, so one thing I found kind of interesting about Grayscale was Rothschild's fund or trust or something bought like a huge amount of shares back into it in December, I believe, like another like millions and millions into it. I mean, that's like the oldest family, the one with like
Yeah,
all the wealth. So,
doesn't surprise me. Old money
if
wants
they're buying
in,
into
man.
it, who isn't?
Yeah, and I mean, people want to see a regulated version of crypto, and this is why Grayscale's products are attractive, right?
Yep.
I mean, they have GBTC, they have FE, which is a trust for Ethereum. They have GDLC, which is a basket of large cap cryptos, right? And I think they have a few other ones. If I remember, like all the different products that they have.
I think BlackRock also came out saying that they want to get into an ETF.
Yep.
I mean,
Everybody's trying to take a crack at it. Yeah, everybody's trying to take a crack at it.
I mean, my take. So BlackRock, when you really look into everything during the whole COVID pandemic, when it comes down to real estate, go do your research on that. They were buying up like everything possible. Like that was insane. So if they're getting involved into the crypto space, there's a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to talk about.
But in terms of real estate, these guys were insane.
That's a company that has a lot of money to sit there and think about the markets.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and we've said it before on previous shows, right? Where who thinks that traditional finance and traditional money is not looking at the crypto space simply because they're not currently participating, you're missing the forest for the trees, because they've been looking the entire time, right? They've been watching. They see the opportunity. They're just waiting for some barriers or guardrails to be put in place. Yeah. So it's not just a free for all, and that they've got the ability to do what they do safely for their investors. Right. And that's, we go back to the executive order, right? Brings us all the way back around, because as that regulation comes in, that makes it safer for the big players to really jump in. And when that happens, talk about, a ton of money flooding into the markets. Like,
whenever I think of this, I put myself, like my analogy to all this is I put myself like into the medieval ages, like go back like as far as possible to where there's like gold or like gems, like tangible objects. They would always tell like the peasants or the people, like, you can't have this, or you like stay away from it. It's like dangerous. But then the back end, they're accumulating the hell out of it, right?
Yeah.
It's the same game here. It's all an accumulation game, and that's it. It's all fight for who owns the most.
Yeah. So and the thing is too, like when big money goes to enter crypto, they're not going to be signing up for a Kraken account or Bittrex or it's not how they're going to do it. You realize that, right?
That's true. Yeah.
They're going to look, well, I want to buy $100 million worth of crypto. Like, how do I do that? And it's going to be very hard for them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
It's going to be all this off-chain, over-the-counter type of deals that happens in the back scene. Right?
Yeah.
That's going to take time. So that's the accumulation zone, basically. That's probably what's been happening this entire time, right? I mean, so some manipulation to force it down. Somebody's there to be buying it.
Yep.
Yeah. So these types of transactions happen like they will, say, well, I want to buy $50 million of Litecoin, right, or something like that. They're going to call up Charlie Lee. It's like, I give you $50 million, you give me X Litecoin. And he'll be like, okay, I like money. So then he will literally just transfer it from their wallet to them, and then they will give him cash in his bank. It won't happen completely off the exchange. That's how it's going to happen.
And by the way, OTC deals for you, that's illegal, by the way.
Yeah.
But for us, we can do it. All right. I do want to be cognizant of time. We're up there. Closing statements for next week, I guess, just to be patient, wait, let's see what happens. There is another FOMC meeting next week, or I think that was it, though. Or was there another one?
Yeah.
I think they're done. So now, gotta wait for March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a little time. So, but I expect that if the market was going to dump pretty bad, like worse than where it is, it would have done it this week.
Yeah,
I expect that Monday they'll probably start a little rally. But it's ultimately going to be boxed in by the previous top, right? Because people will see that and they'll get scared. They're like, well, I don't think this picture is that rosy, and then it'll come back down. Like that's my realistic expectation of next week, honestly.
So you think so? We might just see a jump and then I don't know. It's always the same thing, man. That's it. Up and down. That's it. It's always the same thing.
So,
all right, guys.
It's always up or down. It could go up, it could go down, right? But it's important to understand the reasons why it can go up and why it can go down, right? So that you're informed. Then you can see it. The trade is starting to go in a certain direction. Like, okay, it's because these situations are playing out. I know how to do this trade.
True. Right? All right. For next week, I'm gonna actually. Let's come up with like a good game plan. I want to have some kind of like an educational approach to this. So with some TA or some researching that your average trader might not actually know about. You know, we could go into Block Explorer. We could go through that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I got to dig up that Ethereum Foundation sell from November.
Yeah,
you guys can see it on the scanner. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So guys, Friday, again, we have 2 shows. We have Flourishing AI, which is at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then we're breaking it up to then have this market talk for this segment. So learn about both. I think with Fate also, there's some dynamics that play into the marketing as well. But I don't know, maybe we could save that for this part. See what Fate does. Maybe have a segment on that. I think that would be interesting. So what is Fate doing today?
What is Fate doing and what is Fate thinking, right? Like, you know, talking about some of the things that she can do, you know, the promising command, looking at tokens that she's looking at. That would be fun to get into.
Let's do that. Let's lead with that next week. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe
awesome.
Maybe have we could I could have the disclaimer up. I got to remember to do that. But then
at the beginning,
yeah, and then at the start, we'll have something like promoted by Uplink or something like that. Make it like fancy, nice little commercial.
Yeah,
make it official Uplink because it's cheap.
That's it.
That's it. All right, guys. Friday. Thanks again for joining this. We'll be in the chats in the back end, but thank you for joining. See you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye.